रेडियो उड़ान के अपडेट्स लेने के लिए इस चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और इस वीडियो को ज्यादा से ज्यादा लाइक कीजिए और शेयर कीजिए। फॉर मोर इन्फो लॉग ऑन टू www.radioudan.com।
जी दोस्तों, नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल। मैं दानिश महाजन प्रोग्राम बदलता दौर में आपका स्वागत करता हूं। प्रोग्राम बदलता दौर में हम डिसेबिलिटी से रिलेटेड मुद्दों पर बात करते हैं। बेहद खास मेहमानों से हम आपको मिलवाते हैं। आज भी हम आपको एक बेहद खास मेहमान से मिलवाने वाले हैं। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं एमएस के बारे में, मल्टीपल स्क्लेरोसिस। आज हम एक पर्सनैलिटी की लाइफ जर्नी के बारे में बात करेंगे। वो टेक्निकली सेल प्रोफेशनल हैं, 16 सालों से ज्यादा उनका एक्सपीरियंस है। अभी वो अमेज़न वेब सर्विसेज के साथ काम कर रहे हैं और कई अवार्ड्स उनके नाम है। वो एमएस पर्सन इंडिया ऑफ 2023 रह चुकी हैं और भी कई खिताब उनके नाम है। वो एक सोशल एक्टिविस्ट भी हैं, डिसेबिलिटी राइट्स पर वोकल हैं और जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी हैं मल्टीपल स्क्लेरोसिस सोसाइटी ऑफ इंडिया बेंगलोर चैप्टर। तो डिटेल में जानेंगे उनकी जर्नी के बारे में, किस तरह की लड़ाई वो लड़ रही हैं, क्या रहा उनकी लाइफ जर्नी में, किस तरह के स्ट्रगल फेस किए, कब उनको एमएस हुआ। डिटेल में बात करेंगे। आज की जो हमारी मेहमान हैं वो हैं जया एलिजाबेथ मैथ्यू। मैम, वेलकम टू रेडियो उड़ान and thank you so much for giving us your valuable time.
Hey, thank you so much, Danish. I mean, I'm just so super fired after listening to you and that introduction. I should say I'm grateful to you for actually getting me onto your show. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure, ma'am. Tell us a bit about yourself to our listeners.
A little about myself. So like you already mentioned, I am, a technical sales professional, and I've been working for close to 16 years. I'm based out of Bangalore, and I currently live with my husband and my 11-year-old son, Nathaniel. And like you also mentioned, I was diagnosed with a condition called multiple sclerosis, and this happened in August 2020, which is roughly about 3.5 years now. And so I've been on the road, I would say, to recovery and discovery from, then on. But, going, a little further away from just work, and the core me, the things that I really like to do in my downtime. I'm someone you would see reading books a lot, painting a lot, writing poetry, and most importantly, volunteering for causes that really matter to me. And that's perhaps we'll be talking a lot about today. But what I like the very, very most is to be spending quality time with my family and friends. So that's me in a nutshell, Danish, for you.
That matters a lot. So family prays together, stays together. Jaya,
Absolutely.
ma'am, tell us one thing. As you mentioned, you were diagnosed with MS in August 2020.
That's right.
So I'm working from last 15 years in this field. So the major challenge is when you diagnosed with any disability, particularly later on, it takes time to accept that particular disability. And you only did not accept it, but you started the movement, you joined the forces, you realized the issues, and you started working upon. Now, how big this setback for you, and how did you cope up?
Yeah, so yes, I do not know if your listeners know full well about MS as a condition. So if you don't mind, I'll just pause to kind of give a very high level about the condition, because that would perhaps help them appreciate a little more about, my journey itself. So, MS, also known as multiple sclerosis, sclerosis standing for scars, is basically an autoimmune condition that affects your central nervous system, right? So your CNS comprises of your brain and your spine. So this is a case and a condition where your own body is attacking certain parts of your central nervous system. And what basically happens in this condition is an outer covering of your nerve, technically called the myelin sheath, is being damaged by your own body. And depending on which part of your brain is getting damaged, the signals to that part of the body stops. Okay, for example, it's like, the charger that you have for charging your phone. If the wire outside that kind of, damages a little, then you know that the signals are going to leak. So that's really how MS kind of manifests itself. So if you have, your part of your brain that takes care of your motor sensory being damaged, then you will have issues with movement. If it's going to be something to do with your bladder, you will have bladder incontinence. If it is your optic neuritis, it can be, that you would face anything from, going having a blurred vision to going completely blind depending on the condition. So all in all, this is a very unpredictable condition, and it manifests very differently from person to person, right? So let me start by telling you about my journey, if that's okay, Danish. Really,
Please go ahead.
So like I was saying, I was diagnosed in 2020, right? And I still so vividly remember that evening in August when I went for a run with my son in the layout. And I remember it so well because when I woke up the next morning, I was almost paralyzed. And when I tried explaining to my husband that something seems to be badly wrong with me, I actually started to slur and even lost control of my speech. And why I'm saying this is because this was like a night and day kind of an experience, right? That's how unpredictable it is, because you're running a few hours before and then suddenly you're almost immobile. And, to make things even worse, all of this was playing out in the backdrop of the COVID phase 1. So in fact, the entire family panicked, and when they all came in, they were also wondering if this has anything to do with even remotely COVID, because we were all trying to figure this out, because out of nowhere I was suddenly behaving the way I was. And anyway, to cut it short, I still remember that my family decided to monitor me, and as unpredictable as this condition can be, I started to come uphill a few hours later, which confused everybody even more, which means that I was able to speak, quite coherently, maybe not the best. At the same time, I was also able to start moving around with quite a bit of support. But from what they saw me in the morning to a few hours later, they were starting to see that there was a recovery, and hence there was a lot of confusion on what was happening. About 2 to 3 days into my, recovery, the family thought that all was good. In fact, they were thinking it could be something like maybe a chikungunya where you have rigid bones, because nobody really figured out there's something else that can hit you, because this really hit me like a thunderbolt in the summer sky out of nowhere, right? And I still remember I told my mom that I want to go and see a doctor, and she flatly denied. She refused. She said, you can't do that. And that's because it's COVID. And she didn't see really a need for somebody who's recovering in her eyes so well to actually go ahead, to a hospital where there were a lot of COVID cases being reported, especially in phase 1 when people were still trying to figure out what it is. And then my husband came along, and I told him that I need to see a doctor, and he said the same thing. He said, you seem to be okay, you probably are just a little stressed, you're overthinking, so just get some rest and you should be good. And I remember that I had no option but to drop a tear or two. And like it happens in most families, my father came around for his daughter, and he said that if she's so adamant that she wants to go and see a doctor, then we need to make it happen. And that's really how it happened. And why I'm saying this is because both my husband and my mother were stopping me from going with a very good intent, right? They didn't want me to go and get impacted and affected with something more. The intent was good, and they were just not able to see what was happening to me. And that's a very important part of MS, right? Besides the visible parts that they already saw and saw me come uphill, there were a lot of invisible things that were happening in me, which I was not able to explain to them. And that's why I was pushing for, meeting a doctor. And fast forward to a few hours for meeting, a couple of doctors, I was handed over a life-changing diagnosis, which is that, I have multiple sclerosis. And to be very honest, I'm very proud of myself that I went and pushed myself to get that diagnosis done. Because today I know in hindsight that multiple sclerosis is a condition for which nobody knows what the cause is. And there is no cure for it in the world. But that said, we are at a time, at least when there are treatments available. I mean, there are, lowlights to that as well, which I'll come to in terms of expenses. But at least there are treatments available. So which means if you're able to get a timely diagnosis, and if you're able to get, timely treatment in place, then at least there is hope, for recovery, or at least to stabilize yourself. So I'm glad that I was someone who was able to do it. And why I said this is also because while a lot of people are unaware of MS as a condition, I think I was one of the exceptions, because I had learned about MS in my textbooks in my university, right? But that was in the early 2000s. And if you, have kind of done a little bit of research on MS, you would know that in the early 2000s, there was no treatment available in the world. So the textbooks carried a message that this is not a very great condition to have. And it is a condition that, can debilitate you and perhaps, get you to a really bad stage in your life. So when I was diagnosed with this condition, one, I knew what it is, but my knowledge was a little dated. So then there was, of course, a little bit of fear and anxiety about what will happen. But I think that's where the entire support system comes together, right? And I am very fortunate to be a person with a very, very great support system, both in terms of my family and my community, and thankfully, even in terms of my doctor and his entire team as well. So therefore, I was able to kind of figure it out that, there are medications available that, I can perhaps, on board and therefore be able to manage this pretty well. So, I was somebody, while MS is not a condition that's easy to understand, if you're ever going to ask me that question, the diagnosis itself, is a journey by itself. Then the entire living through it is a roller coaster ride. I will never deny that. And is it easy to understand? Not at all. If you ask me, I'm still understanding MS, but I knew about it, which helped me to take some, very good decisions early on and helped me to get out of the woods, at least in terms of, the early stages of understanding my condition and being able to deal with it well. And of course, yes, like you rightly said, I've been somebody who's taken it head on. And I think that's also to do with my upbringing and the way that I am. I am honestly a fighter. So, when this kind of hit me, while, like I said, there are fears and anxieties, we are all human. It does happen, but thanks to all the support that I got, I think it's only got the better out of me. I mean, I can tell you, that with my hand on my heart, that I am somebody who absolutely does not regret it, because I believe that it's got the better out of me. Yeah.
Right, amazing. तो एक चीज जो निकल के आई वो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है कि आपने बताया कि आपने पढ़ा था पहले इसके बारे में, यू हैव ऑलरेडी रेड अबाउट इट. तो अगर हम इसको अपने करिकुलम का हिस्सा बनाते हैं, एजुकेशनल करिकुलम का, तो ये काफी लोगों को जागरूक कर सकता है. वी आर डिमांडिंग फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट दैट डिसेबिलिटी शुड बी अ पार्ट ऑफ स्टडीज. सो later on, unfortunately, if we get into that, it can really help. Your case is really indicating about that. Now tell us, what pushed you to accept it immediately? Because when you acquire disability, so you have to face societal stigma, you care about your families, you have a fear of losing your job, a lot of things are there. But in your case, as you said, you were a fighter. So what pushed you to accept this?
Yeah, so that's a brilliant question. I mean, I think it really goes back to the heart of what I said, that I'm a fighter, and it begins from there, right? But then being a fighter alone at vulnerable times, can also, kind of pull you down at times, because you are human at the end of the day. Like I said very clearly, it has to do with your support system. It has to be with people around you that make a difference. So I still remember that when I got diagnosed, I had people who were very, probably in my extended family and friends and all of them saying, okay, just keep it to yourself. I mean, what is this condition? I mean, most of them didn't even know about it. So they were like, what have you got? And those days, everyone was calling it like, 1 in a million. Well, it's not 1 in a million. But, it's a very rare condition. They were like, how did, you ever get this? So, maybe you should just keep quiet about it and all of that. People were just trying to be nice. And of course, they were well-wishers. But I took a very different stand, Danish. And I think that's, again, I cannot explain why I did. I think that's just how I am. I decided that I'm going to be very vocal about it. And I just don't know how to, kind of not say something and then live a life. So I just decided I'd be vocal about it. And that's what I did. So I still remember I came back from my first week of steroids that they had put me on, because when they caught my condition, it was, called out as both very atypical and aggressive. So once I went through my first round of steroids and I came back, I actually, created a community for myself, a small one. I reached out to my, closest friends from school and college, and folks from church and, whoever I knew full well. And I told them, this is, what has come upon me. And that, I would need their help. And I can tell you that's taken me a long way, because just a message each day to pep me up, or a call once in a while, or even my cousins for that matter, from all around the globe, calling me, checking on me, that makes a big difference, Danish. I mean, we are human beings and emotion matters a lot. And to see that kind of love come in, it only made me a lot more stronger. And my family, I can tell you, has just been like, rock solid. I mean, there was not one time that they even shed a tear or made it look like something had gone badly wrong with me. That never happened. So I think it's one to do with the way that I had the support system around me, but it's also to do with the choice that I made. And I say that with a lot of humility, but I think that makes a big difference. I chose to be very vocal about it, and I think that helped a lot, because till date, I still get a lot of people cheering me up, asking me things, which helps me on a bad day, because this is a condition, like I said, the course of it is very unpredictable. Like, I'll be really up today, perhaps not the best tomorrow, right? So you really need that, for someone to cheer you up. So that is one. And even at work, to be very honest, I chose to be very vocal about it. Now, there as well, I was told, think twice. People won't understand your condition, and it's not like it's coming in the way of your work. So think about it. Here's how I look at it, see, it's one thing to be courageous and be vocal, but I also believe it's one thing, to ensure that courage is accompanied with wisdom and discernment. So I would say be vocal where you think it's right, and deem fit and who you need to say that to. But I chose to do it, and it's taken me a long way as well, because
I was about to come on your working.
Yeah.
As a person of MS, two things I want to understand from you. A, did you ever face discrimination? Did you ever be victim of stigma? And second, when you are a person of MS, so you get exhausted soon as compared to other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
was that impacted in your work life, or did you face any challenge in your offices from the officers or the higher authorities? What about that journey?
Yeah. So yes. So maybe let's pivot a little into the work part itself. You've rightly pointed out that fatigue is one of our biggest problems, and that is a problem, and I do face that as well. And I'll tell you how I kind of deal with this, on a day-to-day basis, right? So if you travel with me or see me, and I'm a technical sales professional, which means that I travel a lot. I go to customer places for meetings, and a salesperson, is driven by numbers. So it's not easy at all, right? That's also why, if you remember, I was telling you, people were saying, think about it. Do you want to talk about it? It's a job and all of that. But I was very clear, I will, right? And how I kind of deal with it, I say it in the present, because I still do that, is one, you will see me as an carrying an online. I'm somebody who carries I'm like a mobile pantry. Maybe I should put it that way. I carry food everywhere I go. I'm someone who came to understand very early on in my journey, and that's thanks to a few people that kind of opened my eyes to it, that food is the best medicine. One of the most valuable lessons I have learned, Danish, in 3.5 years of my journey, that food can make a big difference. So I kind of change my diet to manage a few things, and I figured out that fatigue, which is the biggest problem, can be managed with that. So if anyone travels with me, you'll see me carrying an entire pantry of fruits and dry fruits and fresh juices and tender coconut water and whatnot. So that's really how I deal with one of the main problems that folks with MS face, and I do as well. I'm not insulated from it. So that is one. Second, another thing that also comes to my mind, Danish, is while I may be speaking and I may be coming through to you very clearly and all of that, there are that moments in your brain that you can't control, where the signals may not be the best and you kind of slur a little. Your mind goes blank. All of that does happen, right? And that's not fully in your control. So then it's also important to figure out how that works. And especially in my kind of a work, where I'm facing customers and, talking to a lot of people, that does matter. So that's again a piece that I kind of sorted out by being just quite vocal about it. And I'm grateful that my company was very okay to have somebody normalize their personal story at work. So that helped a lot more in terms of building awareness. To give you an example, when I actually go into a meeting today, and if I think that I'm not having a very great day with my brain and it's kind of, acting up, I actually just tell my colleague who's with me that, just in case I slur, that's all I need to tell, and he knows it. So, while in the conversation, if anything happens, I see a team that, quickly picks it up from me, and then, that's the kind of understanding. So that's, again, I'm emphasizing again on the importance of, building your support system and people that can stand by you in every aspect of your life. And another thing, in terms of work, that at least I have I had to make modifications to be sure that I'm able to fulfill my task pretty well, is by organizing things, or rather I'm super organized. Okay. I mean, it's something that annoys my husband a lot, but I used to be organized. Now I'm super organized because I know that's the only way to do it. And that's because, I need to write things down. I need to be very clear because I don't want to get stressed at the end of it all. I realize that I'm missing something and then, have your brain fried. So I know the better way to do it is, have your to-do list in place, know what needs to be done, have it all very clear and execute. Not very easy, but I think it makes things easier than what it would be if you don't do that. And besides that, I do take short breaks. When I say short breaks, cat naps, 5 minutes, just walk around. And I kind of play with all these tricks. So if you ask me, while I may be all pepped up and I'm very happy about everything, there are those low moments. There are those, moments where you do really feel sometimes a little thing. But these are the ways that I have come to figure out, to manage my condition. I hope I've answered your question.
Yep. Who introduced you to MS Society of India? How did you become part of that? And how is journey? And also, when we read about yourself, the major thing that you are advocating for insurance, because MS is not included in health insurance. What is the status? How is the fight going on?
Yeah. Who introduced me to MSSI? So folks who are listening in and perhaps don't know what MSSI is, MSSI stands for Multiple Sclerosis Society of India. It's like, it's an NGO here in India that was started in 1985 with about 9 chapters across India right now, working exclusively to fight for causes that matter to persons with MS, right? To get to the heart of your question, which is, who introduced me? Very interesting, Also, will help you all understand how important it is for us to be able to tell folks about it because, one leads to the other. The person who introduced me to MSSI was one of my customers. Can you believe it? Someone who just got to know, didn't see me for about 3 weeks between my diagnosis and my initial treatment initiation and all of that. It was like, where did you go? And I was quite vocal about it. And I said this, and this person actually pointed me to someone who's very active with MSSI Bangalore and actually nationally as well. And that's really how I made it to MSSI. And I'm so glad that I actually made it into MSSI. And I say this all the time, everywhere I speak, because MSSI has given me a very solid platform to fight for causes that really matter to me. Right. And there are a couple of causes that are very, very close to my heart. One is building awareness of MS as a condition, because I came to understand very early on that a lot of people have no knowledge about this condition, right? And like you said, getting this into the curriculum and all of that really would make a big difference. And I'm hoping that, someday we will get there. So that is one. And the second is, building a financial risk cover for persons with MS. This was another thing, that's very close to my heart. And I probably spend a little time on the insurance bit because that's, again, a project that I'm closely working on. And also give you a context of why this really matters to me. Like I was saying, once I was diagnosed, and I understood that there are treatments, I was also given to understand that the treatments are very expensive. And for those who are listening in, just for you to get an idea, an MS, a person with MS can spend anything between 10,000 to over $1 lakh every month, depending on your condition. Right. And some of the medications are very, very expensive. Like I said, it could be more than $1 lakh per month. Just come to think of it. And so when, we were told about this, I remember my husband and me sitting down and, looking at what needs to be done, because this was an unexpected expense that hit us. Right. And then it just seemed like a no-brainer to both of us at that point in time. Both of us said, yes, let's just go and look for an insurance and see how we can, get some cover there as well. So we turned to the insurance companies. And I remember one thing that happened there, it was in the early 2020s, right? In Jan, Feb of 2020. I still remember that there was one person an insurance agent who used to kind of make it to my office, and he was really, kind of after me to get myself an, personal insurance, which I thought was a great idea, and I think it is required for everyone to have a cover, right? But somehow COVID came in the wave after that. It came in the way after that, and that kind of just fizzled out. And then, like I mentioned at the start of the show, that it was in August 2020 that I was diagnosed. So then I decided to go back to this gentleman, and I called him back and I said, hey, this is it, and this is the current state of affairs, and therefore, can you tell me how we can go about it? And, help me with an insurance. He only told me, give me a few days. I just need to talk to a few people, and I'll come back to you. I said, okay. I didn't hear from him. I waited for a couple of days or more. And then when I actually called him back, he said, ma'am, I didn't really have an answer for you. That's why I didn't call. And the answer I have is not, or perhaps the answer I have is not very positive. I said, what happened? He said, no, you will not get an insurance cover and you won't get it from anyone. I was shocked. I said, okay. And why is that? And I started to probe him a lot, because I'd also I was not completely naive that I didn't understand that a pre-existing disease is now going to go through its set of terms and conditions and all of that. I'd done that little bit of research over the few days. So, but I just wanted to understand from him, what is really stopping someone from giving us an insurance at all. I mean, so why was that? And then he said, since I've known you for so long and you're pushing me so much, let me tell you what I've been told, that your condition, has something to do with the brain. And nobody knows which part of your body is going to fuse out depending on, where the signal stops coming. I mean, this is just what he told me, almost verbatim. Right. And I can tell you, Danish, like I said, I've never asked why I got MS. So I'm not somebody who actually really broke down because of it. But that day after that conversation, I felt very discriminated. I think that's the only one time that I remember really breaking down, because it was an experience I couldn't believe for someone who was coming in and asking me to take an insurance to a few months down the line, telling me, hey, sorry, I can't do anything, just leave it there. I just figured out that something had changed so drastically in the last few weeks that, I've been so discriminated, right? And that's where the entire journey began for me. And I went to multiple insurance companies, and like you said, everyone denied it. And what is even more disappointing here is nobody gives you a reason as to why they deny it. And if you know about it, like the IRDA has clearly called out that, while an insurance company can impose 24 to 48 months kind of a wait period, but an insurance policy has to be given. And when I actually started speaking to the folks in MSSI, because I was connected with folks in MSSI, and now I have the great advantage of working as a joint secretary of the, MSSI Bangalore chapter, and also leading the National Insurance Project, nationally for MSSI along with another friend. We did surveys. We figured out, and we realized that nobody is getting it, which is so unfair. I mean, the IRDA itself says that, you have to give it maybe with a wait period. And that's really where we, in fact, kicked a project nationally, which, like I said, we are kind of leading. And we've touched upon different layers of the ecosystem just to understand where the blockers are. And I'm not going to get into those details because that's going to take a long time. But what I can tell you from the entire project that we did in a phased manner, and also after doing a complete research and analysis of the persons with disability policy that's come out, I'm going to make a very bold statement here, but that's a statement that I will stand by, because we have done quite a bit of reading and understanding of this to tell you that even those for MS are not an economically viable option. In fact, to us, it seems more like a code compliance for many reasons, which probably we can take up, at a later point in time, because that's very time consuming. And therefore, we have decided to, in fact, start a campaign called Insure My MS, right? With an aim to build awareness and visibility of how disadvantaged we as a community are today. Because, and I want to be very clear about this, we are a community whose treatment is so expensive, like you heard it. And on one side, there is no medical subsidy whatsoever that's given to us. And on the other side, there is no insurance cover. And that's exactly why, with all my personal ups and downs in this journey, I decided to take this up, and fight for this, because it's not about an insurance cover or, a certain, we are okay with a financial risk cover whatsoever that may be, because we just want to ensure that everyone gets diagnosed in time. And as soon as they are diagnosed, they are able to get into a treatment so we can arrest it going into a disability. That's really the whole idea of doing this. And I'm glad that I'm talking about it here. And therefore, I'd like to tell each of, the viewers and persons listening in here that, when we come out with this campaign as well, do help amplify our voices so that the right folks can hear it and take a step in the right direction. And also talking about the corporate insurance, Danish, if I can take another minute. Now,
Absolutely.
this, of course, is, I would say, perhaps one of the only ray of hope at this point in time. But my experience also tells me, unlike my case, wherein, of course, I have a company that absolutely supports this, so I've not had a problem. But I have a lot of people who have come to me saying that, their claims have been repudiated for various reasons, and we had to navigate that. So that again is a challenge, and in many cases is a fight to the finish. But for anyone listening to me, you must give that a fight, because they are expected to cover pre-existing conditions, and therefore that is something that we should always pursue. But otherwise, that's my insurance story. I'm also personally fighting a case. Of course, I can't speak much about it, but I'm fighting that in the High Court today, because I believe that we have been absolutely discriminated and put at a disadvantaged position at this point in time.
Right. So matter is sub judice, so I will also not ask much about that, but at later of the case, we will discuss in details if the judgment comes.
Sure.
Now, there are certain disabilities, as you talk about MS, thalassemia is there, hemophilia is there.
Yeah.
It's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And you rightly said people cannot afford that, even no matter how rich you are. But at a stage, your family thinks of it, right? So even we are talking about a person who are sitting in Bangalore, and we cannot imagine the situation of the people who are residing in the rural areas or in the villages. They will be dying without diagnosis.
Yeah.
Now, I want to understand. We can understand health insurance companies, they are for the profit and all.
Correct.
So how can government support? Why government is not sensitive? Or as you rightly said, there should be medical subsidy, because it's a duty of the state to ensure medical facilities for our citizens. So now, what is the attitude of the government, and how can they support? I want to understand.
Yeah. So, first thing in terms of what you're saying, the fact that somebody in Bangalore, somebody who is perhaps technically rich, are themselves struggling. And that's what I always tell when I, talk to maybe the government officials or the folks who join us for the different conferences and events that we have, that we do have schemes for BPL, right? And all the schemes come out for below poverty line. But I keep reminding them that with the kind of, cost that we have to bear, that even people who are APL will become BPL very soon. That is honestly, and the bitter truth of life at this point in time for people who are living with MS. And like you rightly said, rural as well. And all of that actually connects, if you ask me, Danish, to one thing, which is building awareness. If you ask me, I think, when I speak to the government officials or whoever I've been able to speak this far as well, there is still a lack of understanding, I would say, at a very large level, even now within the government bodies and all of that, and the different I would say different sections that have to work, right, for persons with disability, specifically for MS, because it's a condition that's not clearly understood by a lot of people. So I would think building awareness is very important, and that's something that we've taken as a charter. So if you look at MSSI itself, nationally they're working very closely with various government bodies with a goal to try and build,
But have your society or you individually given any memorandum to government where you demand for the medical subsidy or to cover MS under the government schemes?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. That's where I was coming. So nationally, we actually work to, build policies that are conducive. While I can't get into details of what the national team has given, because I'm not absolutely privy to that. So I'm not getting into details that I don't know 100%. But back here in the Bangalore chapter, because like I said, I lead it as a joint secretary. We have actually met with the state, disability commissioner here. And I should put this on record that the current disability commissioner is taking great interest in seeing what can be done for persons with MS, right? And I'm, we've actually now submitted a proposal. We have kind of explained the issues. We had the India MS Day event that happened in Feb, and we had actually him and a lot of other government officials came in, and we kind of explained to them what our problems are. And as part of that, as a follow-up, we've actually submitted a proposal requesting for a medical cover for persons with MS, specifically for the Bangalore chapter at this point in time. And I'm quite positive that, something will come out of it, because like I said, I am really seeing that at least the Disability Commissioner in his office at this point in time are very, very keen on seeing how they can remove the blockers that's been there and make a genuine change.
How can other disability groups support your movement?
Brilliant question. I'm someone who believes in this, that there is a lot of strength in network, right? And especially when we talk about disability, it takes one to know one, right? We understand each other better than anybody else. And in fact, when we did the insurance project as well, we had actually called in folks. We had representations in one of the events that we did, if I remember, from hemophilia and thalassemia, and we reached out to Parkinson's as well, simply because we understand that, unifying our voices together in these kind of aspects. And that was specifically an event that was held for insurance, I remember. We had brought them together. So that is one. I believe it's a strengthened network, and we'll have to unify our voices. And the second is, when we release our campaign, we want all of you all to come together and help amplify our voices. Come to think of what we're doing here right now. And I'm sorry if I'm going to kind of embarrass you a little, but let me tell you this, Danish, what you are doing, for example. I mean, this is a brilliant platform, right? So it gives us a chance to come forward and speak about the current state of affairs, the gap, and where we would like to get. And then since y'all are people who also understand it, and your viewers also do, it'll only help us amplify our voices. And that's really, I think, bringing all together what I'm saying, that, there is strength in a network, and we have to come together and amplify our voices and find platforms like this to make that difference, which we are already doing. I'm only hoping that it will only get better and bigger from here.
Radio Udaan is always, your own platform. So we give you a free hand whenever you want to do a podcast, whatever message you want me to spread. We are always at your disposal. You can just give a call, and it's a day or night. We are always ready to support our
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Danish. I mean, that really means a lot. I mean, this is almost like a movement, right, that you've started. It's brilliant. You're really moving things for a lot of us.
Now tell us, you became MS India Person of 2023. How big moment for you that was?
Very, very, very big moment. And I'll tell you why I say this, and I'm going to give you a little context. But before I do that, I just want to call out that whatever I'm saying with a lot of modesty, only to just give you an understanding of really, why I'm getting to what I'm saying. I'm somebody who is, my entire journey in life, I'm not somebody who's had regrets about any phase of my life, okay? Any phase of my life, be it as a student or a working professional or whatsoever. I'm somebody who had the good opportunity to top at my academics. I was the university topper. I won awards one after the other in terms of being an all-rounder at the community level, at the school level, volunteering for causes that mattered to me. In short, I was someone who lived my life to the fullest, right? And then suddenly, in my early 30s, for most people, life comes in the way in terms of marriage and child and, career. Things went a little quiet. And actually, MS is what came along and broke that bubble for me. And then I kind of made my way into MSSI. And I would say all my pain turned to purpose. And they gave me a platform, like I said, to fight for causes that matter to me. And if you look at it, the reason why I mention all these awards is, to actually seize all the opportunities that you have and do all the hard work to get those awards is one thing. But it's another to take all your challenges and then turn that into your strength and to something more purposeful. That is what I was able to do here at MSSI, and I'm so grateful that they found me worthy of an award like this, because that's what touches my heart. Like I said, you can seize the opportunities, but to take a challenge and turn it into an opportunity, and for someone to actually appreciate that takes you a long way. So this is really one of the awards that's very close to my heart. In fact, I'm looking at my wall of fame in my house when I speak to you now. The award that MSSI has given me is right up on the wall for the same reasons that I mentioned. It's actually given me the impetus to fight more and, a lot more louder and, bigger and, whatnot for the community. Yeah.
Okay. So now it's time, one word answer round.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the happiest moment of your life?
One word.
Probably one sentence, not more than that.
Okay. When my child was born, Jan 15.
What is the most emotional moment of your life?
Emotional moment of my life is when my mom stood by me when I kind of didn't do well in something, and emotional because I just love the way she stood by me, and that's taught me how to, bring up my son as well today.
Inclusive education or special education?
Inclusive, always.
One habit of yours which you cannot resist, you go mad for?
One habit that I think I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. I wish I could be less of a perfectionist.
One dish you like the most?
Thai red chicken curry.
If you get an opportunity to serve the following ministry, what would you pick and why? Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment or Ministry of Education?
I think Ministry of Education. Yes.
Why?
Why? Because I think, again, I said it's about building awareness. And if we can make the right changes in there, it's going to take us a long way. I mean, it all goes back to where we started, right? I was somebody who was able to kind of catch my condition because I knew. And it all begins from there. And since I know it today and I know the value of it, I think I'll be able to make a big difference there.
One person you want to meet again and again?
Meet again and again. Yeah, let's keep it,
confidential?
No. I mean, in the spirit of my marital bliss, I would say my husband.
One celebrity you wanted to meet or you want to meet?
Celebrity I'd like to meet. I actually want to meet a few, I more than one. I mean, the likes of Sushmita, Samantha, and folks who are actually, talking about conditions like this. I'd like to see if we can actually come together and amplify our voices.
One country except India you want to visit?
Good question. I want to visit, what have I visited? Okay, quite boring, but Dubai. And I'll tell you one thing, I visited quite a few, and the more I visit, the more patriotic I become. There is no place better than India, I can tell you that. So that's why it took so long, because it's really difficult to think of one now. I love my country.
Right, so we asked every question. We dealt all the questions which are serious, emotional. We went through your life journey. I'm sure there are a lot of things we could not cover because it was you speak so well that I want to listen more and more, and the way you were putting things forward to aware masses, as you rightly said, because people are not pretty much aware with regard to MS. So maybe some other time we can cover some more points. But thank you so much for your valuable time, and I would definitely want you to share your email with the listeners and your message with the listeners. So if anybody needs any sort of help, they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Do I have a minute to put forth my message to the audience in the form of a poetry that I wrote?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I was about to say that, and please tell us a bit your poetry.
Yeah, this is also something that's something that makes me so happy because, like I said, I was into a lot of poetry writing much before, but then, life came in the way and I stopped all of that. And it's MS that got me back to writing this. And I want to, kind of dedicate this to each of you listening in, because while this is my journey, and if you've heard me completely, you'll see that it's kind of all layered in here. But it also tells you what, my perception and what I think about, what MS has made me out to be. And that's my message to you, y'all as well, which is to celebrate life and to celebrate every aspect of your life. So my poem is titled My Beautiful Brain. And yeah, here we go. I woke up one morning feeling weird. Something wrong with me, I feared. My limbs that easily took to flight that morning just didn't feel all right. I tried to move and I tried to walk. Heavens above, I couldn't even talk. I soon realized this has a name. multiple sclerosis is the one to blame. What followed after was fatigue and pain, numbness and zingers that drove me insane, mental fog and a cloudy vision, needles, pricks and monthly infusion. I soon realized that life's not going to be easy. And to win this battle, one needs to be gutsy. Guts to keep loving yourself and chasing your dreams. Guts to make peace with MS by all means. For life gives you the choice to love and hate, and the decision you take will settle your fate. To celebrate my beautiful brain is the decision I take. Scars it may have, but my spirit, it can never break. Thank you. So that's my message to all of you listening in.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. And that's my message to you all. Please celebrate your life. Stay positive. And the only thing I want to tell you that me and my closest family have learned is that it's not always the load that breaks you down. It's the way you carry it. You know, between success and failure, the difference comes based on your perspective. So stay strong, stay positive, and I think let's unify our voices and see what more that we can do. You can always reach me at Jaya_EM@yahoo.com. Yeah, that's where you can connect with me if you want to ask anything specific or you want to know more about MS. Thank you,
so
Danish.
much. Thank you so much, Jayaji. It's a wonderful podcast, a wonderful interview. And I also learned a lot of things and derives a lot of inspiration from you. And so does our listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
तो लिसनर्स, आज बात की हमने जया जी से, जिन्होंने मल्टीपल स्क्लेरोसिस के बारे में डिटेल में बताया क्या क्या चुनौतियां हैं, कैसे उनसे पार आना है, कैसे आप लोग सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, कैसे इस मोमेंट का हिस्सा बन सकते हैं, कैसे लाइफ को सेलिब्रेट करना है। ये सारी बातें हमने शो में की। इस शो को ज्यादा से ज्यादा शेयर करें, लोगों तक पहुंचाएं, अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग को और गहरा करें, लोगों तक इस पॉडकास्ट को पहुंचाएं और समझें कैसे हम सोसाइटी में कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं। अगले सप्ताह होगी मुलाकात किसी और पर्सनैलिटी के साथ। दीजिए इजाजत, सुनते रहिए रेडियो उड़ान, फ्लाइट ऑफ लाइफ। बाय बाय।
आइए मित्रा ज्योति के साथ सशक्तिकरण की दुनिया को कीजिए अनलॉक। डिजिटल साक्षरता, रोजगार के अवसर और उच्च शिक्षा सहायता जैसी परियोजनाओं के साथ 34 वर्षों के अनुभव का लाभ उठाएं। मधु सिंघल के नेतृत्व में मित्रा ज्योति दृष्टिबाधितों के लिए मार्ग प्रशस्त करती है। डिजिटल साक्षरता, रोजगार और उच्च शिक्षा की परियोजनाओं के साथ जीवन बदल देती है। आपके लिए मित्रा ज्योति खोल सकती है स्वतंत्रता के द्वार। अधिक जानकारी के लिए विजिट करें www.mitrajyoti.org पर या फिर कॉल करें 08022587623 पर। तो आज ही मित्रा ज्योति से जुड़े और अपनी स्वतंत्रता का मार्ग प्रशस्त करें।